Welcome to Roots Reality Experiences. Today I'm joined by Ekaterina Shelehova, who is an opera singer and the lead vocalist for the French music group Era. Additionally, she's performed all over the globe and went viral on the internet with over 100 million views for her performance on Italy's Got Talent. So, Ekaterina, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so, I'm curious, when did you first get interested in music?
In music in general, I think probably by the age of 2 or 3, I was already really interested because um, my uncle used to write jingles for the radio, and he was a huge lover of music, and so is my dad as well. And so music was always in the house. I remember just watching like old house videos, and there was always some kind of song in the background, so there was always music playing. So I guess my love for music and my interest in music started ever since I could really comprehend it or understand
Sure.
it, at least. And I actually started to perform very young too. I was 4 years old when I did my first concert, and I started taking lessons when I was 3, by a teacher in kindergarten who I guess heard that I had good ears. I don't
There you
know.
go.
And she kind of pulled me aside while the other kids would sleep, and I would take lessons with her. So I started quite young, quite
Yeah,
young.
okay, that's cool. And what made you go down the path of like, singing opera? I know that it's not like the most popular genre for, younger people to get involved in. Usually people are
Hmm.
thinking like, oh, they want to get involved with pop music or something.
Yeah.
So why opera?
Well, I think that was one of the genres that was, I guess, playing around my house
Oh,
very
okay.
often as a child. Um, I was very lucky to grow up in a household with very diverse musical tastes. So my father used to listen to, well, he still listens to classic rock and um, classical music and opera and all those things in the middle mixed together. And so I kind of I knew what opera was. I've always listened to it. As a child, a lot of the time when you start to learn how to sing as a child, they always give you very classical songs that are maybe by Schubert or Mozart or things like that. And then you kind of evolve from that, and then you choose which direction you want to go into. So when I was in Canada, I used to sing in a choir. It was called the Hamilton Children's Choir, and they're actually a very famous and renowned choir in Canada. And I was with them for, I believe, about 5 or 6 years. And I think at one point, at around 11 or 12, my voice started sticking out of the choir because I started projecting a lot more. And sometimes you just have that natural projection a little bit more forward. And I was pulled aside and I was told, maybe try to go into opera because we believe that this could be something that you could be potentially good at. And
Yeah.
it just kind of happened. I started studying very young. I didn't do any, crazy arias, but I definitely started studying really classical kind of training since I was about 10. And yeah, I liked it. And I liked um I liked the drama of it. I liked the mixture of acting and singing, because I used to perform in musical theater as well. So those were my two passions, musical theater and opera. But I just kind of um, I liked the um, I guess I liked the way I was singing in opera a little bit more, so I kind of shifted into that
Yeah,
as I grew older and just kind of stuck there, I guess.
definitely. No, that works. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, opera is very different, I feel like, than a lot of musical genres because the way you're singing,
Yeah.
I guess the technicalities of it. Yeah, when
Hmm.
you talk about projection, I mean, and really making your voice, uh, sound really powerful, opera is the genre to do that.
Hmm.
Can you describe some of those differences between opera versus, people just singing and sort of your classic pop style, for example?
Hmm. Yeah, well, in opera, I think the most important thing we have to think about, well, I mean, one of the most important things is the projection, right? Because in opera houses, we don't have microphones. So the singer has to not only carry their voice to the end of the hall, but they also have to somehow overpower a 120-piece orchestra. So sometimes it goes to 60 or 70 people depending on the repertoire you sing, but it can go all the way up to 120. So you can imagine all these sounds coming from the pit, and you're trying so hard to overpower them. So you need to have that projection, that energy to be able to get all that sound out. I think in pop music, it's much more. There's much more concern about the style of the individual person, I think. So there's no real rules there. It's however you want to sing, it's however you feel is more comfortable for you. Where
Yeah,
I believe in opera, for example, there's a lot of rules where you have to follow them. Otherwise, you'll really just hurt yourself, number one, and number two, maybe stylistically, it wouldn't be the correct way to sing it. So
sure.
there's, of course, many different things between opera and pop, but I guess those are the biggest ones.
Yeah. I imagine that your breathing technique probably has to be pretty
Oh
important as well,
yeah. Yes, I
given
was just yeah.
yeah, given how much, effort you put into singing. I feel like a lot of people would be pretty out of breath if they weren't trained to sing opera.
Yeah, well, that's definitely one of the biggest things about opera is the amount of breath you have to take. So just a little quote, for example, when during COVID, a lot of singers, opera singers, had to sing in their masks, and a lot of people were struggling a lot with it because the amount of breath you need to take
Yeah.
is so much that
Yeah.
the
Oh my
mask
gosh.
restricts you from singing. And I remember I
Sure.
had to sing a very difficult aria for a concert, and I told them, listen, either I sing with the mask and I sing, I don't know, something that's 2 pages long, or please let me sing without the mask. They let me sing without the mask,
Okay.
thankfully, but that
Yeah.
just goes to show you need so much breath. You need so much breath support, and the diaphragm has to be so supported that, it's a lot of training on the muscle there. So
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. I can't imagine
yeah,
trying to sing opera with a mask on. That'd be pretty tough. Um,
crazy, crazy.
Now, I guess the other thing though is because you're singing to be an opera singer, you're really belching out these chords. I imagine that injuries are always something you have to kind of be careful about as well.
Yeah.
Um, and so one of the things I've always been curious about is how, as opera singers, do you manage your career without getting injured? Because obviously you're putting so much effort using your muscles in your throat. So,
Mhm. Well, to be honest, I've heard a lot more damaging kind of stories of damaged vocal cords with pop singers than with opera singers,
oh, okay,
to be quite honest.
interesting.
Um, yeah, I think it's just because um, there's a little less of, for example, when you sing with a very kind of round palette here, that kind of helps relax the vocal cords. And so when you're singing in a more classical style, as long as you're not pushing, that's when the damage
Mhm.
arises, then technically, I mean, you can sing for a very long time. And sometimes we have rehearsals for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours at a
Yeah.
time, and you have to sing all that time. And um, the way that you're able to do it is because your vocal cords are nice and relaxed. So I mean, the most important thing is the technique, right? So if you master that technique, then technically you should be able to sing till you're 80, 90. If you look at the greats such as one of my favorites, Montserrat Caballé, who just unfortunately passed away just a couple of years ago, she was singing, and she was, I don't remember how old she was when she passed, but she was, I believe, in her 80s, but her voice was so crisp and fresh because she was singing with that proper technique, which she just kind of preserved through her life. So um yeah, it's all to do with that. It's all to do with just taking care of yourself, taking care of your body, and taking care of all of that. But I've heard so many stories about pop singers destroying their vocal cords, so I mean,
Yeah.
it can go either
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like being an athlete, all the preparation
Yeah.
to make sure those muscles don't get messed up. Um,
Exactly. Same thing. Same thing.
yeah,
That's actually a great comparison because I always say when I teach, I always I always say think of singing as a sport. You know, don't think of it as, you know, just you get up and you can sing. You have to warm up just like you stretch before you go for a sprint. Otherwise, you're going to pull a muscle and then not walk for a week, right?
yeah,
It's the same thing as singing. You got to warm up. You got to make sure that you are, you know, healthy and in a good also mental state. You know, you have to prepare yourself mentally as well when you sing. So all those things, it's just like a sport, definitely.
yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people don't think too much about that. I guess it makes sense also for pop singers since,
Hmm.
as you described, a lot of them are just kind of doing their own styles, whatever they feel comfortable with, and you may not be focusing so much on preparing your voice, and I guess you kind of quit paying attention to that perhaps, and I guess over time you could get damage there. Or if you're like doing like heavy metal singing or something like that,
Oh
I can see
yeah.
people, yeah, messing up their some muscles there from screaming or something like that.
Could be, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a proper technique to do it as well. I know a few I know a few guys who are in metal bands and they do the scream, the growl.
Yeah,
And there's a proper technique to do it. And technically, if you do it the proper way, you're not really supposed to have any issues. But
yeah,
I mean, I'm not really
yeah. No,
really
it's
qualified to say.
sure. Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. You're not a doctor, so we're not. We don't have to go into too much of the
Yeah.
nitty gritty details of that.
Yeah.
Um, but sure. So I'm curious then, how did you come up with your song? The Earth Melodies song that you came up with and that you sang on Italy's Got Talent and stuff.
So when I was writing that song, I wanted to incorporate the two styles that were the most important, I guess, in my life, which was kind of the old Slavic folk song type of technique and the operatic technique, which I was really concentrated on for the 5 years before I went on the show, as I was studying at the conservatory in Milan. And I wanted to create something that kind of showcased my passion for those two things. Because I guess for a long time, especially during the conservatory days, it was very frowned upon to do any other styles or to kind of meddle in anything else. And so I always felt like I wanted to express myself in a different way. And so this was kind of the opportunity to express myself and to show what what I'm really about. And then creating all those melodies and everything. I'm very I love nature, for example. I've always been a big kind of nature nut, and I go camping very often, and I go hiking, and I really like to be kind of in tune with nature. So I kind of created a little bit of a storyline between how we start with the earth, and then we go up into the sky, and we become birds, and then we kind of come down, and it was kind of a little bit of a storytelling in there as well. So, but pretty much the idea was to incorporate those two styles that mean a lot to me, and yeah, so I did.
Sure, that
I guess,
logical.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Now, yeah, I guess one of the things that was interesting when I first heard it, as I guess many did on social media, as the as a video goes around the world, basically.
Oh my
Um,
God, I know, crazy.
one of the things that was interesting to me though is it reminded me of not sure if you've heard or seen the show on Netflix called The Last Kingdom. But the intro song for that show, it just kind of reminded me, the way that you're projecting in that song. It reminded me of that intro song a little bit, kind of this historic
Mhm.
singing style uh, that often encompasses like in TV shows, sort of old traditional combat and stuff in medieval times.
Mhm.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. Did you have any particular things you were trying to uh, sort of base it off of or connect it to? You talked about nature, but was there any sort of historical aspect of like what you're envisioning this song to be sort of about, or is it just kind of general? This is supposed to be kind of a song sort of connect, being one with nature or something like that. since it's called Earth
Yeah,
Melodies?
yeah, it was always very abstract. I've gotten this question a lot, and the thing is that when I released it and when it went kind of all over the internet, everybody kind of interpreted it in a very different way, which I thought was super cool because for me it was just kind of like this big abstract kind of idea of creating all these elements and just working around them and kind of making my voice into these different sounds and seeing how the voice can do many different things and how we start off with like darkness and we come up into the sky. So for me, listening to different interpretations of what people heard was really cool. I will say, however, that one of my biggest inspirations in general has always been Lord of the Rings and
Oh,
Howard
okay.
Shore's music.
Sure.
So I've listened to that soundtrack. I don't even know how many times, I don't want to lie, but I'm guessing at least 3 million times.
That's a few times. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my biggest inspiration has always been Howard Shore's music,
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings in general. And I mean all those fantasy kind of things. So I mean, you mentioned The Last Kingdom. I've actually never seen The Last Kingdom, but I've seen Vikings.
Okay.
Um, and I thought that was just brilliant, and things like Game of Thrones. And I've always been a little bit, really, really into that kind of genre of
Yeah.
film and soundtracks that are involved. So that was, I guess, my inspiration, all of
Yeah, the
that mixed
connection makes
together.
sense. And yeah, Lord of the Rings definitely tries to have sort of that similar type of vibe for
Yeah.
things. So that's cool. Now, what was your reaction to going viral? I mean, I assume that most people probably don't expect to go viral, but when it happens, I'm sure, especially as much as yours does, because I think there are people that actually go viral, and there's people that go like super viral, which it seems like you are more in that realm of super viral with over 100 million views. How do you process that? What was your reaction?
Honestly, like you said, I did not expect it at all. Honestly, I did not even expect such a positive reaction at all. I was going in kind of head first with something that I envisioned and I thought it was very precious to me. But I didn't really expect such a positive outcome. I honestly thought people were just going to say, okay, that's weird, and kind of move on. I don't know. I have no idea. I was watching the show here, and after I performed, my phone started vibrating really quickly. And I thought, what's going on? I have no idea. Maybe my mom's calling me. I don't know what's, and it just started like wildfire right after I performed. Um, and so I was completely unprepared. I had no idea really what to do with all that was happening. Um, and so I guess I don't know, it just comes at you like a tsunami and you just have to kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
Thankfully, um, I've only gotten very positive feedback, and everybody that's written to me has been so incredibly nice and just, and I don't know, it's just blown my mind. And it's really inspired me to do more of that and continue on, and understanding that, what I had to share perhaps might not have been that weird after all.
Yeah. Yes.
And so it was nice. But yeah, very strange, very surreal.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that definitely has to be kind of a life changing type of moment for anyone in that situation. How does that sort of change or impact your goals as a singer going forward? Then, because you've now um, really reached out to a lot of people in a way just by accident who may never have really listened to anything sort of somewhat connected to the opera genre at all. Given that it's a pop music dominated world for the most part, or rap or hip hop or rock, and the opera genre, these more classical genres, I think probably are taken for granted a little bit by uh, the youth of nations around the world. So how did that moment sort of change your thinking of your career?
Well, it's always kind of excited me to do more of those kinds of genres, and I've really liked always incorporating opera into this kind of genre. So, for example, my other songs, such as Awakening, it also incorporates a little bit of the operatic style because I don't know. I just I like the way that sounds. I want to kind of showcase that, that's a style that's out there. And I've gotten a lot of messages saying, I've never listened to opera until I've heard your voice, and now I kind of went and researched a little bit, and I listened to some of this and some of that. So, incorporating and showing a little bit of that in in what I do is important to me. But I think it's really changed my mindset on what it is really I want in life, which is um, I do want to. Well, I do. I'm writing my own album at the moment, so it's um it's really changed my perspective of what I can do and what I'm able to do. So I mean, it's always been a positive thing. It's
Yeah.
it's a hard question. I'm like trying to get it right in my head, but it is a tough question. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I imagine that for anyone, it definitely has to have an impact on sort of how you see yourself as a singer and what you can do in the future. And probably a lot of it's also
Yeah.
you just kind of figure it out as you go. But you know now
Yeah.
that that's
Yeah.
you can have an impact that large with your music without
Yeah.
doing something that is kind of common practice in the music scene. You didn't produce a pop song, you produced this really powerful song that people connected to in a totally different way. And I imagine that younger generations now are being exposed to music that they wouldn't have been before because that you went viral. So
I hope so. That's awesome to hear. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, seems like it. I don't know how much an impact 100 million views has, but probably a lot. So
I hope
it seems like,
so. I
yeah, it
mean,
seems like you're doing pretty well. Do you think that social media will sort of, I guess the way I want to phrase this, do you think that your work now has also given other artists in your music scene sort of more access or encourage more people now to think of other opera singers on social media, and perhaps that will also get more attention online as well?
oh, I really couldn't say. I really don't know. I hope so. I always
Yeah,
hope so. I do sometimes share um, things that I like with my followers. So, different types of music, and I like to share things that I listen to. So even opera arias, and I post a few of my performances, and in those performances, there's other people that are involved, and so hopefully there is a little bit of that I guess chain of reaction. But
sure.
yeah, I mean, I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so.
yeah. Yeah, it can't certainly can't hurt. So I imagine it'll probably make an
Yeah,
impact to a
no.
certain extent, right?
I
Um,
hope so. Yeah.
Now, how did you get involved with the French music group Era?
Yeah, believe it or not, thanks to the video.
Okay, so
Because yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's interesting.
They found me through the video. I came and I guess sort of auditioned for Eric Levy, who is the founder and composer of Era. He's the mastermind behind Era. And yeah, we just it clicked. Everything was, it seemed great. And I went on tour with them in November and December of 2022. Gosh, we're in 23. I can't
Yes,
remember
yeah,
what year we were in.
yeah.
I don't remember
It's all
anymore.
blur at this point.
Yeah, it's all a blur. So in the end of 2022, we did our tour, my first tour with them, and it was phenomenal. It was one of the best experiences of my life. We did 18 shows in 18 different cities in France, Belgium, and Switzerland.
Yeah,
And we're going to do another tour in 2024 in February. So yeah, but they found me through the video, which is so exciting because the video granted me so many crazy cool opportunities, and honestly, I'm just really lucky and grateful that that happened because I got to meet so many cool people and got to do so many cool things because of it. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. So, can you describe sort of what type of style that group performs compared to like just traditional, I guess, opera? Since I'm sure a lot of people aren't too familiar with, all the complexities of that and what exactly Era
okay.
does.
Okay, yeah. Era, let's just say it has nothing to do with opera.
Yeah.
So Era is a rock group.
Hmm.
You could call it maybe even a little bit metal, I would say, but
Okay.
it's more in the rock kind of genre. And the cool thing about Era is that Eric Levy, he incorporates a lot of Gregorian chant in the
Okay.
music.
Yeah.
So you will hear one of the most kind of um riconosciuti, recognizable, sorry, recognizable traits of Era is the Gregorian chant that you can hear in practically every song. So it's a really cool contrast between these electric guitars and the heavy drums and
Yeah.
everything, and then this male choir of oh money,
Right.
it's super cool. And I grew up listening to Era, so you can
Wow.
imagine
Yeah.
how fast my heart was beating when I opened my email, and my dad calls me. He's like, Did you see the email?" And and I'm like, "This has to be a prank. It's probably a prank." But no, it wasn't a prank. But so the music is very particular, but it's for any rock head, they would rock out to it, and the shows are fantastic. So
Yeah.
it's a great band.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about coming full circle then. You listened to them growing up and now you're the lead singer. So
Yeah. Crazy.
funny how life
Crazy.
works. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And so what are you currently working on then?
So at the moment, I'm actually writing my own songs. So I've had a few songs kind of, I've been very, I guess, shy with releasing my own content. So after Earth Melodies, I started kind of gaining the confidence to really continue on that journey. Um, and this, oh gosh, I blanked out for a second. Okay, this winter, that when that happens, you
Yeah,
get like a little.
that's normal.
It
It's okay. Yeah,
happens. We're all human here, okay?
that is true.
So
Yeah.
this winter I actually collaborated with another composer, Ron Lopata, in Toronto, and we wrote 4 tracks, which are super incredible, and I'm so happy with them. So we're
Yeah.
writing an album, and hopefully it will be released this year, if not early next year, because we're kind of in the process still of all of that. And it's really cool because all of the songs are very meaningful to me, and they're all about different experiences in my life that have made me who I am now as a person. So every song is very specific and very, I guess, personal and
Yeah,
very, yeah, very nice. So that's, I guess, the biggest thing that I'm working on right now. Yeah.
that's awesome. Now, how many albums have you done throughout your career?
So if we count the children's song album when I was 5 years old,
Yeah, I guess we
which I
could.
will.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
So I recorded a little EP of children's songs when I was a child. And then I released my first full album at 16, which is titled Moonlight, and it's under the pseudonym Katya. So it's not under Ekaterina Shelehova. So if you search it on Spotify, you would have to search Katya and then Moonlight.
Mhm.
And that was an album done and published by Marquise Classics in Toronto. And it's a gorgeous album. It's super beautiful. It's full of crossover kind of stuff. There were a few originals there written for me, one of which was written by Steve Ryman, who is fantastic. And it was a great album. And yeah, and then I've done a few things after that. But ever since I was 18, I've been studying at the conservatory. So for 5 years straight, I was locked down.
Okay.
I was,
Can't
I
produce
had
any.
nowhere
Yeah.
to run.
Yeah.
So I kind of really took um, that very seriously and didn't really meddle in anything else. But then after I graduated, I decided to kind of go the more, I guess, progressive route when it came to opera and kind of find my own lane.
Yeah.
And so I've recorded a little ukulele piece since then, and right now I'm working on the album, but I have a few releases that are coming out as singles, so that's always really fun. And yeah, so I do have one full album, and it's
Okay.
out there.
Yeah.
Just you gotta look for
That's right.
it.
There you go. I guess your album though, there's from your like when you were a child, I guess that's not on Spotify, I assume, from the children's
No, it's
chorus or
not.
something.
No.
Yeah, I figured that probably wouldn't make it, but that's good. Maybe through the future you can dig up a recording.
Yeah, no, it's actually on my website, so you can actually listen to it for free on my website if you just
Really? From
search
when you
in
were a
the.
child? You
Yeah,
have wow, that's
yeah.
impressive. Okay.
I believe if it's not, if it's still up there, it should be. It should
Yeah.
be. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. So you really have your whole career there then. All right. That's
Yes.
impressive. Jeez. Now, I do have kind of a funny question for you. Given your singing talents, have you ever gone to a karaoke club and sang at a karaoke club?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But
Okay.
yeah.
I just
The
imagine
thing
that could be
is,
kind of a fun situation for you, given most people at karaoke club, maybe they can sing a little bit, but they're not very polished. And then having a professional singer, an opera singer no less, could blow people's doors off a bit, probably at places like that, potentially. But
that's nice. Well, when I go to karaoke, I end up choosing the very silly songs that don't really require a lot of, I
okay,
guess, push or
more
or
more of a
technique or
relaxing
anything.
experience than for you, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess when I go to karaoke bars, I usually just like to joke around. So, one of my favorites to sing at the karaoke is Despacito. And
Okay. Yep.
you know, just I don't know, Hotel California.
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I mean that's a strong song.
Sure.
But things like that, or girls just want to have fun, or
Yep.
things like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
But I've always kind of side-eyed the people that would come in and sing way too well at the karaoke bars, because I'm like, come on, what are you doing?
That's
This
that's
is
right. Just
for fun.
embarrassing
This
the other
is
people. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
Kind
I
of
tend
rubbing
not
it
to do
in.
that.
Okay.
I
All
don't do
right. So
that.
you try to make other people feel good about themselves. Like the person that comes after you doesn't have to get up on stage like, okay, I'm not sure how to follow that, but
Oh,
yeah, because I've seen people in that situation before, and you kind of always wonder, like, wow, I'm glad I'm not after that person. So,
well, I mean,
um,
after my Despacito, everybody can just go home. I mean,
oh,
come on.
okay, yeah, yeah, there you go, that works. Now, is Earth Melodies, is that going to have a karaoke version at some point that people can
Oh,
try?
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm sure
I
that
wonder
would
what the
be.
lyrics would be. I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
I think
Oh.
it just say, yeah. I don't know. Sing along with the tune, sort of. Just
Yeah.
make up your own
Yeah.
lyrics. Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
Well, what's the best way for people then to keep track of your work? Obviously, I'm sure you're on Spotify and everything else, but in terms of social media, what like Instagram and other places?
Yeah, so I'm very social on Instagram. I
Okay.
try to maintain, and I try to post a lot on Instagram. It then goes directly to Facebook, so whatever platform you choose. I have a TikTok, which I sometimes post things on there as well as YouTube, where I would post covers and videos. And so it depends on, what you like. If you want vain photos of myself in weird places looking awkward, then Instagram is definitely the place to go.
Fair enough.
but
All right.
but no, I'm kidding. I usually just post videos on there anyways. And so I'll post a lot of shorts on Instagram, and then for the full videos, YouTube is the place. So
Yeah.
any of those, and I'm quite active in all of them. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your experiences and knowledge of opera and other genres. And yeah, really appreciate it. So.
thank you for having me. Thank you so much.